Bet365 sponsors the 59th Minute FPL podcast, and they stream over 150,000 live sporting events every year, connecting you to every game that matters. Bet365 offers a wide range of markets, including first, last or anytime goal scorers. Download the app and see for yourself why it's the world's favourite online betting company. And with the Bet365 Bet Builder, you can create personalised bets and calculate the odds for any football match right there in your hands. Their app lets you watch thousands of games live, but if you can't watch it for any reason, you can stay in touch with instant match updates. Bet365 is the world's favourite online sport betting company. The app can be downloaded from Google Play and Apple App Store. Over 18s only. Please gamble responsibly.
The Athletic.
Hi folks, welcome to another episode of the 59th Minute FPL podcast, which is brought to you by The Athletic. I'm Mark McGettigan. You can find me on Twitter at FPL General. I'm recording on Thursday morning ahead of blank Gameweek 36. Hard to believe there's only 3 game weeks to go now. It's another Friday deadline this week, 6:30pm UK time, which is 90 minutes before the Newcastle-Manchester City game. There's still a few games to go from Gameweek 35 at the time of recording. This weekend in Gameweek 36, there's no games for Manchester United, Chelsea, Leicester or Arsenal due to the FA Cup final, which makes it tricky to field 11 players for most FPL managers this week. This is the week to free hit if you've still got that chip available. The headlines from Double Gameweek 35 so far: Ole Gunnar Solskjaer made 10 changes for the Leicester game, the second of Manchester United's 3 fixtures, with Mason Greenwood the only survivor from the first one. He scored in both games, and it would be pretty impressive if he could do the same against Liverpool tonight. Crystal Palace duo Eberechi Eze and Christian Benteke are currently in the team of the game week with 16 and 15 points respectively. Mr. Zaha disappointed his new owners though, scoring just 4 points over the 2 games. Callum Wilson scored a brace in Newcastle's impressive 4-2 win at Leicester, but has since been ruled out for the season with another hamstring injury. Highly owned assets Patrick Bamford, Stuart Dallas and Heung-min Son were all on the score sheet as Leeds beat Tottenham 3-1. Rafinha made his return to action from the bench and grabbed himself an assist just in time for blank Gameweek 36. FPL legend Marcos Alonso scored a late winner for Chelsea against Manchester City. Sergio Aguero gifted Mendy a penalty save in that game, so thank you Sergio. Diogo Jota blanked yet again in Liverpool's 2-0 win over Southampton. He will be rage transferred out by a lot of managers if he doesn't deliver something against United. Lewis Dunk scored and got himself sent off in the defeat to Wolves. Chris Wood was on the score sheet once again, scoring a great goal against Fulham, and Danny Ings returned from his latest injury layoff to score twice as Southampton beat Crystal Palace 3-1. You can subscribe to The Athletic right now for a special price of £3.99 a month for 6 months. That's 40% off the full price of a subscription. You'll enjoy great analysis and in-depth features from the very best football writers around, as well as ad-free versions of all our podcasts. Simply visit theathletic.com/FPL pod to take advantage of this special 40% discount. That's theathletic.com/FPL pod. Game Week 35 shoutouts. We have 2 new members to the club that nobody wants to be in. First of all, welcome to the 59th Minute Club, Gabriel Teodoro Martinelli Silva from Arsenal, his first shoutout of the season, and also Sheffield United Sander Berge, who was returning from injury. So good to see 2 new members to the club at this late stage of the season. Just 3 more game weeks to go, so hopefully we'll get a few more. So keep an eye on those clocks in the final few game weeks. A couple of notable mentions. Ruben Neves, who is already part of the famous club, got a 60-minute appearance, so he was very lucky to avoid his second shoutout of the season. And Aaron Cresswell gets a mention also because he got injured again and managed just 58 minutes for a 1-pointer. A quick review of Game Week 35. Obviously it's not finished yet, but just a quick review of how it's going for me so far. I took a -8 going into the game week, and every player I sold did well. Alonso got the goal, Azpilicueta got the assist, and Patrick Bamford was also on the score sheet. So that was frustrating, but at least the guys who came in did the business. Joel Ward got me 6 points. Luca Dean and Calvert-Lewin delivered in the first game, and they've got another game to go. So overall, we'll probably break even on that and hopefully a little bit better. At the moment, before the Thursday night fixtures, I'm on 83 minus 8, which gives me 75 points, with loads of players left. Dean, Calvert-Lewin, Trent, Jota, Salah, Shaw and Bruno. So hopefully all 7 of those guys start tonight. So overall, it should be a green arrow regardless of what happens. A watch list updates. Lots of players removed this week. We're getting towards the end of the season now, so there's a lot of players that I'm not really interested in anymore when there's just 3 game weeks to go. So Danny Welbeck is gone. Can't really see myself buying a Brighton player anytime soon. I think it'll be game week 1 next season before I consider those guys again. Gareth Bale has also got the chop, quite simply because I don't own Heung-min Son, and if I do buy a Tottenham attacker, I've already got Harry Kane. If I buy a midfielder, it will be Son over Bale. El Ghazi didn't stay on the watch list for very long. He was mainly there because of Villa's double game week. Quite a few players I've removed this week actually are players who had the double game week. Now that that's out of the way, I'm not really interested anymore. The same goes for James Ward-Prowse and James Maddison. Harry Maguire's gone for obvious reasons. Mason Holgate also, he was dropped somewhat surprisingly for the last game. He may well come back in because I think Yerry Mina is injured for the Thursday night fixture, but I've got Luca Dean, so I'm not looking to get Holgate. If I was to get a second Everton defender, it would be Seamus Coleman. I've added him to the watch list this week. Rudiger's gone, just not going to buy any Chelsea players for the final 3 game weeks. I want to buy players who are going to play, so that rules out the Chelsea guys and the Man City guys for my future transfers. Castagna is gone as well. Leicester haven't been keeping too many clean sheets recently. Robertson is gone as well because I've already got a Liverpool triple up. Apologies if you can hear the dog walking by me in the background there. She was supposed to stay asleep for this episode. And Charlie Taylor for Burnley is also gone from the watch list. Again, last 3 game weeks of the season, can't see myself buying a Burnley player. Players added to the watch list ahead of game week 36. Seamus Coleman, who I mentioned. So I've got Luca Dean, I've got Calvert-Lewin, and I'm not against a triple up for that Sheffield United fixture in game week 36. They've got a good fixture in game week 37 as well. I think it's Wolves. I've added 2 Newcastle attackers, Willock and Saint-Maximin. Newcastle have been pretty good recently. They've got decent fixtures to end the season as well. So I like those 2, Saint-Maximin in particular as a differential, and Willock is only 4.7 million. So if he could be used to make an upgrade elsewhere, he's a good enabler. Patrick Bamford's, I've probably bought and sold Bamford more than any other player this season. Sold him last week. Not against getting him back in for the final 3 fixtures, which are pretty good. I think Rafinha being back will make a big difference for the Leeds attack as well. So Bamford is back on the watch list. Cavani's back on it as well. Good to see him sign a contract extension at Manchester United. He's been excellent for us this season. Again, obviously United don't play this week, but then they've got 2 good fixtures to finish the season. So I like Cavani for those 2. And Danny Ings also back from injury, back with 2 goals. He has decent fixtures to finish the season as well, in what could well be his last games for Southampton. So that is the watch list updated ahead of the weekend.
Flowers are blooming, the grass is growing, and it's time to mow your lawn. Thanks to our sponsor Manscaped, you can trim your hedges below the belt safely and efficiently. Manscaped is the global leader in men's below-the-waist grooming, and they have an exclusive offer for our listeners. Get 20% off and free shipping on their Perfect Package Kit by using the code EPL20 at manscaped.com. Right now, the Perfect Package Kit comes with the essential Lawnmower 3.0 waterproof cordless body trimmer and a ton of other liquid formulations to round out your grooming routine. Manscaped obsesses over technology to provide you the best tools for your grooming experience, and they only use the best ingredients. Inside the Perfect Package, you'll also find the Manscaped Crop Preserver, an anti-chafing deodorant and moisturiser. Do yourself a favour and always use the right tools for the job by joining the 2 million men who already trust Manscaped. Get 20% off and free shipping with the code EPL20 at manscaped.com. That's 20% off and free shipping with the code EPL20 at manscaped.com.
Next up is the Twitter questions section. Thanks as always to everyone who sent them in. First one this week is from James. Are Manchester United assets worth holding given their upcoming blank and risk of rotation in their final league fixture ahead of the Europa League final? So I had to go and check this when I read the question, and I didn't realise the Europa League final was so soon after the season finishes. I would have guessed there would be 6 or 7 days in between, but there's not because of this condensed schedule this season. So Gameweek 38 fixture for Manchester United for all teams is on Sunday, and then the Europa League final is just 3 days later on the Wednesday. So I do think there is a chance of some rotation from Ole Gunnar Solskjaer in Gameweek 38 for that reason. It might even just be a case of players getting 60 or 70 minutes rather than 90 minutes. So the fact that Manchester United blank this weekend and then there's that risk of rotation in Gameweek 38, I don't think they're essential. And I think it's fine to sell them this week and get yourself a player who you know will definitely start the final 3 games of the season. Because with Manchester United players at the moment, you're probably looking at one sure start, which is probably Gameweek 37. So no fixture this week. They should play Gameweek 37, and then there's slight worries on Gameweek 38 because of that, just 3 days later for that final. So Manchester United assets, probably one of those, depending on which ones you have, players like Bruno, Greenwood, Luke Shaw, I think they're probably fine to keep because the final 2 games of the season are very good fixtures and you just hope that they start both games. On the flip side, if you've got concerns about Gameweek 38, if you want to get in players who play, which is a pretty good thing to do at this stage of the season, I think it's absolutely fine to sell them. I think a lot of people will be selling, even the likes of Bruno Fernandes this week. Haven't ruled out doing it myself because at the end of the day, no game this week, and it would be a nightmare if you kept him and then he doesn't play the final game week of the season. Probably enough. It's probably too risky to captain him in Game Week 38 because of that slight concern of a rest ahead of the Europa League final. So yeah, I think I'm leaning towards selling is probably the best thing to do now with those Manchester United players. Question from Vinance Roach. Is Bruno Fernandes a must-have for the run-in? And if not, who are the alternatives? So yeah, probably answered this in the first question. He's certainly not essential now, with probably only one sure start in the last 3 game weeks and quite hard to captain him on the final day. The alternatives, if you're selling Bruno at a similar price, it's the obvious candidate. Salah, if you don't have him. Heung-min Son, I think Bruno to Son is going to be a very, very popular transfer this week, and I think it's a good one. Sadio Mane, looking a little bit better recently. He's had a pretty poor season by his standards, but he could finish it strongly. So I like Mane as a differential. I actually quite like the Salah-Mane double-up for the final 3 fixtures. They're pretty favourable. Liverpool have the best fixtures of all teams for the final 3 game weeks. The other option then is to, obviously you can downgrade and use the cash elsewhere, or you can gamble on a Manchester City midfielder. Now, I decided when I wildcarded, I think it was Game Week 30, that I wasn't going to buy another Man City player for the rest of the season because I just don't want to worry about Pep Roulette, and I'm probably going to stick to that. But I think a lot of people will gamble. Players like Mahrez, Foden, De Bruyne, depending on his fitness, these guys should get a significant amount of game time between now and Game Week 38. So I don't mind that actually. I quite like a punt. Mahrez is probably the one I like most. Been very impressed by him this season. Should get 2 out of 3 starts, you would imagine. So I do like that. I do like a gamble on a Manchester City midfielder. You just know it comes with a heart rate warning that it could cause you pain, but on the other side could be very, very rewarding. So yeah, I think Son, Salah, Mane or a Manchester City midfielder punt is the way to go there if you're going to sell Bruno. Question from Guy Parfit. Bamford or Antonio as an Iheanacho replacement for the remainder of the season? Again, I think a lot of people will be selling Iheanacho this week. I will be doing so. No game this week, and then 2 tricky enough fixtures to finish the season. So I think it's absolutely fine to sell him. Question is who to replace him with. I've had a look at the fixtures for Bamford and Antonio. They're basically exactly the same. Both players face Southampton and West Brom. Bamford plays Burnley and Antonio plays Brighton, and I would rate fixtures against Brighton and Burnley pretty equally. So it really feels like a 50-50 decision on whether to go Bamford or Antonio. Comes down to personal preference. I prefer Antonio slightly, just like him more as a player. Bamford's been in and out of my team all season, so that probably plays a part. I really don't want to use another transfer on him. I've used about 5 or 6 on him already this season, and I always seem to get him at the wrong time anyway. I still like the fact that Antonio and West Ham are going for that Champions League place. Leeds, we usually will call a team like Leeds a team on the beach at this point of the season, but I don't think Marcelo Bielsa believes in beaches. So Leeds, I think, will keep firing on all cylinders for the final 3 game weeks. So I don't think you should go for Antonio over Bamford just because West Ham have something to play for. To me, Leeds are still firing. They're going to be giving it their all until the very last whistle in game week 38. So I think it's a really close call, 50-50, and I'm probably going to go down the Antonio route, but it's probably 51% to 49% in Antonio's favour at the minute, and that could change before the weekend. Question from Cheeto Chip: is it worth taking a hit to replace the Mendy-Forster tandem in game week 36, or hope Forster plays and keep Mendy for the last 2 games? So this is my goalkeeper situation, and I think it's the goalkeeper situation of a lot of people. Mendy and Forster, obviously both keepers did well in the most recent game week, but it's a problem now for the final 3 weeks. We don't know what's happening with Forster. There's every chance McCarthy will come back in for game week 36. Mendy doesn't have a fixture, so we could very easily be without a goalkeeper. Kepa played on Wednesday night, so that's annoying as well. Kepa could get another game in game week 37 or game week 38. So I just think we just sort it out this week. We make a transfer in goal. We sell Mendy, I think, because he's the more expensive one. And we get in someone who's definitely going to play 36, 37, 38. Because with only 3 weeks left, you really don't want to be worrying about your goalkeeper. Even if it's a -4, I think just get rid of Mendy this week and bring in someone who's going to play. The way I'm looking at it, Mendy doesn't play this week. Very good chance Forster doesn't play either. So you're looking at 0 points for your goalkeeper. Take the -4. It's only -2 really. If your replacement comes in, plays the game, doesn't get booked, you're looking at a -2 at worst. So yeah, I think it's worth a -4 this week to fix that problem. And I'm going to do it. I'm going to get rid of Mendy. I'm just not sure yet who's going to be the replacement. There's a related goalkeeper question here from Mikkel Ellison. Is doubling up on the Southampton goalkeepers an option now that there's been a lot of rotation among the goalkeepers? They have a decent schedule and it will probably release some cash as well. So yeah, this was something I hadn't really thought about earlier today when I was looking at replacements. I think I was looking at Fabianski and Meslier, and McCarthy didn't really enter my thoughts until I read Mikkel's question. And I think it's pretty viable. You could, if you've got Forster Mendy, you can get rid of Mendy, you can get McCarthy, and that guarantees you a goalkeeper for the final 3 game weeks. You're going to have the Southampton goalkeeper regardless, unless Hasenhüttl goes crazy and brings in a third choice, which I don't think will happen. Fixture wise for Southampton, Fulham, Leeds and West Ham to finish the season. It's not too bad. I was worried about Southampton a couple of weeks ago about them possibly being on the beach, but that was a good result for them against Crystal Palace, and I think they could get a couple of more results over the final week. So yeah, I think it's fine. It's very budget friendly. I think McCarthy might be 4-4. Forster's down about 4-0, so you're spending 8.5 million or even less on the goalkeeper position, which I think is ideal because you can spend the cash elsewhere then. So McCarthy will be in my thoughts now when it comes to a Mendy replacement, but I'll talk more about that in the transfers section. Question from Lucas Wickstrom: is Stuart Dallas a must-have for the remaining fixtures? I think he is. As someone who hasn't really owned Dallas at all this season, I think I had him for free hit. Might have had him for a week or two at another point. I think one of my biggest failings this season has not been owning him. When you simplify FPL, if you get a defender who plays in midfield for an attacking team who's got good underlying numbers, quite simply you should own him, and I haven't this season. So Dallas may be one of my transfers in this week, even as a -4. Losing a player who may not play this week. Again, looking at it more of a -2 than a -4. And I don't mind those -4s this week for players like Dallas who've got good fixtures to finish the season. He's the top scoring defender in the game, so I think if you're going to take a -4 for anyone, this guy, popped up in a 6-yard box in the last game week to score. There could be more goals in him in the final 3 matches. So yeah, I wouldn't say he's a must-have, but I think it makes sense to get him if you don't have him, looking at the fixtures and looking at what he's done this season. Question from Tom Bowdry. Is Ben Rama over Jay Lings overthinking it? I would say yes. Ben Rama has looked pretty good in the last couple of games that he's got starts in, but quite simply, this stage of the season, by players who are going to play, can you safely say Ben Rama is going to start the final 3 fixtures? I think the answer is no. Can you safely say Lingard will start all 3? I think it's yes. I don't think it's 100% yes, but I think it's a lot higher than it is for Ben Rama. So if I was deciding this week to get a West Ham midfielder, it still would be Jesse Lingard over Ben Rama, even though Lingard hasn't done much recently. It wouldn't surprise me to see him, get back in the goals over the final 3 fixtures. Next question is from Jim Cook. For those without the free hit chip, who are the essential players for blank game week 36, and how few players can you get away with? So I always think in a blank game week that 8 players is a good number to aim for. If you can get to 8, you can probably soldier through it and not get hurt too much, as long as you've got the key players and you've got a good captain. So, but what I would say in this particular blank game week is don't be afraid to take the -4s, because there's quite a few -4s you can take this week for players who don't play, who are going to get a 0-pointer this week. There's quite a few teams that have got 3 nice fixtures to finish the season. I mentioned Dallas, West Ham have got decent fixtures. So the -4s, I think you can justify them for a player who is in good form, got good fixtures, and you're taking out a player who's going to get 0 points this week. So don't be afraid to take a -4, -8, -12 even, to get yourself to 10 or 11 players. I think there's a good chance you will get that -4 back and more by the end of the season. Jim asks, who are the key players to own this week if you don't have the free hit? So you'd be looking to try and get, I think, a Leeds attacker, Bamford or Rafinha, Kane or Son. I don't think you need both. Obviously, both would be ideal. But if you don't have any, I would look to get one of them in. I think you should have at least 2 Liverpool players. You'd probably want to have Salah. You probably want to have Trent. And then you probably want to have Calvert-Lewin against Sheffield United. So I think that's the key. Is that 5? So a Leeds attacker, a Spurs attacker, 2 Liverpool guys, and Calvert-Lewin. That would be the 5 must-haves this week. If you don't have all of those, that would probably be the priority. Get the one you don't have, or the 2 you don't have. Question from FPL Kenobi. If you're on a wild card for the 3-week run-in, who would be the first names on your team sheet? First of all, I will say is you are a very patient manager, Kenobi, to still have your wild card. There can't be too many wild cards left flying about. Those who are activating it this week, first names on my team sheet would be triple Liverpool, because they've got the best fixtures. Trent and Salah pick themselves. And like I said earlier, I like the Salah-Mane double-up for the run-in. Jota, question marks over his game time, hasn't been delivering. I do like Robertson as well, but I think if you're wildcarding at this stage of the season, just attack it. Get Salah and Mane and Trent. I would have Rafinha on a wildcard. I would have Mikel Antonio. I would have Luka Dean from Everton, and I would have Calvert-Lewin as well, particularly for the next 2 fixtures. I think they play Man City on the final day, so you could look to maybe lose one of them for that fixture, but who knows what kind of Manchester City starting 11 that is. Those players could actually do well in that fixture, and I think Harry Kane would still be in my wildcard squad, going for the Golden Boot. Decent fixtures, decent captaincy option for the next 2 game weeks, so that would be my must-haves on a wildcard. Final question is from Clive. What new chip would you like to see next year? So it's not a chip in particular. I've been playing the Fantasy Scotland game this season, and I've really, really enjoyed it because there's quite a few quirks, quite different to FPL in many ways. And one of the things I like most about it, which I would love to see in FPL, is regarding captaincy and vice-captaincy. So how it works in Fantasy Scotland, you pick your captain as normal. They get your double points regardless. But you've got to very carefully pick your vice-captain, because your vice-captain basically, if you vice captain a defender, you get double points for the clean sheet if they get one. But if you vice captain a midfielder or a forward, you get double points for goals only, so not for assists or anything else. So basically, clean sheets, let's say it's FPL, if you have Trent, he gets you a clean sheet, you get 4 points for the clean sheet, he would get you an extra 4 if he was your vice captain. If you captain Calvert-Lewin, he gets 4 points for a goal, he would get an extra 4 points as well on top of his score. What I like about that as well, it means if your captain or your vice captain doesn't play, tough luck. It doesn't change. Your captain doesn't change to your vice captain. Basically, if your captain doesn't play, you get 0. And I like that because I think most of us hate it in FPL, particularly when dead teams, let's say they captain De Bruyne, he doesn't play, and then they look into a vice captain Salah getting them 40 points. I think if your captain doesn't play, I like the idea of your captain getting 0, tough luck, and same with your vice captain. So I really like that about the Fantasy Scotland game. It's a really good game. I see any of you who are into playing other fantasy formats, give that one a go next season. It was a bit crazy this year in Scotland with all the COVID stuff, but still really enjoyable, really good platform. So check that one out next season if you're interested.
As you probably know, listeners, small businesses are grappling with the impact of these uncertain times and looking for resources. That's why for the second year in a row, Dell Technologies is assembling an all-star lineup of podcasters to create the first ever virtual conference to share advice and inspiration for small businesses of all kinds. Dell Technologies is here to safeguard your business with modern devices and Windows 10 Pro to provide relevant content for your business success. Search Dell Technologies Small Business Podference, that's PODFERENCE, on Spotify, Apple Podcasts or Odyssey.com.
Moving on now to captaincy for Gameweek 36. Had a look at the fixtures and I've picked out the best options. I think Harry Kane or Heung-min Son against Wolves is a pretty good captaincy option this week. You could take the risky option on Gareth Bale if you're trying to make up ground. I do much prefer Kane or Son though. Liverpool play West Brom. Salah is an obvious candidate. He will be highly captained. Mane, like him as a captain option there as well. Even Trent Alexander-Arnold. I don't think I would go Jota. I just always fear a bench in there. I mean, you could say for the same for Mane as well, but Salah's obviously the safe pick there. Calvert-Lewin, I think, is as good as anyone as a captain option against Sheffield United. If you've got Manchester City players, they play Newcastle on Friday night. Are you willing to risk ruining your weekend before it even begins with a Friday night captain? I'm just glad I don't have any of them. Danny Ings as well. I think if you own him or you're bringing him in this week, I think he's a nice differential captain against Fulham. Always slight concerns so that they're careful with him and they don't play him in back-to-back games after injury. But if you're willing to risk it, I like Danny Ings against Fulham. For me, I've got Salah, I've got Kane, I've got Calvert-Lewin. It'll be one of those guys for the captain, and having not given it too much thought yet, I can't really split them. I rate all of them quite equally for captaincy this weekend, so I'll update that on Friday. I'll give it more thought and decide what to do there. In terms of my transfers for Gameweek 36, I've currently got 9 players, which is a decent number, but one of those players is Forster, who may not play, and one of those players is Roman Saiz, who didn't play the last Wolves game, so he's at risk as well. So possibly I'm looking at 7 if those two guys don't play. So I'm quite happy to take a few hits this week. May go as far as a -8, which is a pretty big hit for a conservative manager like me. Iheanacho to Antonio, very likely to be one of my transfers. Losing Mendy, very likely to be a second transfer for a -4. The replacements I'm looking at, McCarthy, who I mentioned earlier, Fabianski, I like West Ham's fixtures, or Meslier, also like Leeds fixtures. So undecided on that one. It may come down to cash. If I'm really tight for cash, I'll just settle for McCarthy as the cheapest option. Then the third transfer to bring it to -8 will either be, I think, Bruno to Son, which I like, or Saiz to Dallas, which I think I like more. Even though Saiz could play, even if he does, I don't expect a clean sheet against Tottenham. So I don't mind taking a -4 for Saiz to Dallas, who I'd like to own for the final 3 game weeks. And that would allow me to keep Bruno and hope that he plays 37 and 38. So, I mean, I could go crazy. I could go -12 and do both of those moves. So, who knows? I'll see how I'm feeling on Friday. If I have a couple of beers, I'll be more likely to take the -12 than the -8. So that is my thoughts. Thank you for taking the time to listen as always. Please give it a share on Twitter if you enjoyed it, and leave a review on whatever platform you're using to listen. If you'd like to support me as a full-time fantasy manager and hear 2 more podcasts before Friday's deadline, check out patreon.com/FPL General. Best of luck to you all for blank Game Week 36, and I'll talk to you again next week to preview the penultimate game week of the season.
The Athletic.